Hello everyone and welcome back to another stream from Oman Talks NRL SuperCoach here for the round 17 roundup. We are heading into the third and final major bye round and then mini bye round in round 19. State of Origin game 3 still to go until, we still have round 18 before we have State of Origin, but still plenty to get into for this week. Not too much variance in scores that I'm seeing around. I think the majority of people have kind of done between the 1250 to 1450, 1400. There's only maybe 100 to 150 point swing across most teams who are kind of with relevant players, etc. I've ended up on 1364, which was about par, maybe a little bit more than par. I'd say the par score is about 1320, 1320, I'd say. So I think if you've gotten 1350 plus, probably in for small green arrows, nothing amazing. I think if you've hit over 1400, then you're probably looking at some decent green arrows for this round. Hello to a few people in the chat. Jason Yang ended up on 1409 and captained Herbie. I'm assuming you didn't captain you didn't captain Drinkwater, but assuming you own Drinkwater, yeah, that's still a good 50 points you lost out on. So obviously the rest of your team did very well, Jason, to get to 1409. Martin Lau, as always, Kez G, Mark Lawless with the captain Pappy, 1237. Yeah, Pappy obviously was a bit of a disappointing output today, and he was about 30% captain by higher ranked coaches, and I think Drinkwater was about 50. So definitely edged in favour of the Drinky versus Pappenhausen swing this week for points for captaincy, so that was probably the biggest swing, I think. Martin says, hello from Thailand, 1307, captain on Paps, another horrid round and red arrows. I think 1307 is okay, but yeah, Captain Pappy's obviously that's going to hurt. 1234 Captain Pappy from Rosa, 1407 from 1-0 to the Arsenal, Nathan Pup, 1358 Drinkwater cap, pretty much the same as me, 1450, that's a very, very good score. We got the same score, says Walid. Drinky the goat. Yeah, Drinky, it wasn't looking like a terrible round, but Drinkwater definitely came through in the end with a very, very big score. In terms of my team for this week, so yeah, I did trade in Karapani and Karaz. Get on to Karaz in a bit. I have a feeling we're not going to get him for round 18. Did make a trade at hooker, so copped an auto emergency, which was in the end Lockie Hubner, and that dropped out of my score anyway, which is what I was banking on. So did make a trade at dummy half, hopefully just get Sandon for 18 and then just ride out with Connor Watson from round 19 onwards. Tarome Tarpney, solid. Payne Haas, very, very unders with 45. Same with Kolomatangi, also 45. Lucas, 59. Tino, 52, which was, I think, what we're going to get from him as a floor now, just with his sternum issues. Not going to be pushing those kind of 60s, probably the low 50s, and then hopefully he gets attacking stats. Eli Cattell was a beast today with 106, and thank God for owning Jerome Hughes as well, 114. Really nice having the pair of them, just kind of, just having the stack of both of them. Hughes, when you sent over Katoa, but Katoa, getting the balls from the air as well was, he was unstoppable today, so very happy with that. Nico Hines, 62, in a well-beaten team. He had one try assist, so again, his floor remains super high. Munster, 51, a little bit disappointing. I was looking at him as a bit of a point of difference. So only getting the 51, I was hoping for a bit more. King Tongia, 68 on my bench, so I was never going to play King Tongia, but at least good to know that he's got a good score this week. And then Herbie, Karaz, Lomax, and Garrick all did pretty well, except for maybe Karaz, only 56, but no attacking stats. And Asako, 65, no major attacking stats, but about 36 points in goals in that game. The Dolphins putting up another 50 points. Karapani scored a try against the Warriors, which I was happy to see. I felt like I couldn't really articulate it on Tuesday, but yeah, Karapani or the Warriors have shown a weakness to that edge or that wing. So to see him score for a try was good, and he was very close to scoring a second as well. We saw Shibasaki score a double, so that right side for the Warriors didn't seem as strong defensively. So Karapani, obviously I didn't play him this week, but happy enough with the score. He'll make plenty of cash. Pappy was disappointed today. He was my vice captain in the end, but obviously didn't loop, only the 42. So thank God for Drinkwater, 131 points. Came through big time in the end with the captaincy. He started well and it just kind of kept going throughout the game against the Titans, even despite the wet conditions. And even more pleasingly as well, he's actually hit his break even, which is 129. So that should hopefully see the cash loss start to stop, and we'll start hopefully holding value a little bit with Drinky, because he was on a slippery slope. For example, Jay Schubert's got him down for a 33 break even and not losing any money. So that's good to see as well, in that back to having a low break even. So yeah, overall, team was fine this week. Nothing crazy. I think I had most of the highly owned players who scored well, so not really separating myself from the pack this week, but yeah, happy enough to hit maybe just above par. I'm leading in a couple of leagues. I'm behind in a couple of leagues, so I think that kind of tells you where I'm about in terms of my score for this week. So we'll get into the games and whatnot. Tour Pro says Kiraz outplaying Origin ? So obviously this was probably a game of the round. Penrith versus the Dogs. It was a slugfest. The very semi-finals, like atmosphere, intensity, set for set. So very, very good win for Penrith, and I think we probably do need to just reassess Penrith as well now on the run home. Their defence seemed to be back in the last couple of weeks, and that's a very, very gritty win. Winning against the Warriors without their Origin players, now this win against the Dogs, top of the ladder, that's a great result for Penrith. So we need to take them seriously now for the run home. Dylan Edwards, 102 points. He had the goal kicking this week, so clearly he wasn't goal kicking. It remains to be seen how long that goes for. Now, Penrith don't play round 18, so they're not really a team you need to worry about investing in at the moment. There's a couple of players people might be looking at moving on that we'll talk about. But yeah, Edwards, if he retains goal kicking, we know he's a serious option at fullback and could remain a point of difference there as well. I think people might actually start just moving off Pappy. This low score from Pappy, he's losing some money. Hasn't looked as dangerous in the last few weeks as he had, in the early stages of the season. And aside from that, 182 versus the Tigers, he did have a couple of big 130s, but I can see people maybe looking to try to pot up at fullback. You definitely need to keep an eye on Dylan Edwards. We saw last year with him goal kicking, he was averaging, I think, 90, 100 plus. So good output from him. We know he's a monster in terms of work rate and stuff. Like I'm looking at 42 points of just runs. Then you add in his tackle busts. You pretty much had base power of 60. He had base power of 70 in this game. So unreal stuff from Dylan Edwards. And even Connor Tracy, actually, shout out to him as well. He did have 3 line break assists, but 14 points in tackle busts, 29 points in runs. So pretty good base power as well for Connor Tracy. Jacob Preston scored well with 90. He scored the try in this game as well. Even though he outscored Kickout, I still feel like I prefer Kickout. I just still think that left side for the Bulldogs, that edge anyway, is the place I'd want to be. Now, of course, you can take a point of difference with Preston. But, Kickout, 66 points, all in base power as well, no major attacking stats. That's kind of what I want. That's very, very encouraging for anyone who bought Kickout. I'll seriously be looking at Kickout next week for my own team. And having 66 as a floor is very, very encouraging. The Doggies do have a pretty good run as well for the next, I think, 5 or 6. Their last month is a bit tough, but you're looking at Broncos who will be without their Origin players, Cowboys, Dragons, Manly, Tigers, Warriors. Even though Warriors is tough, as I said before, we just saw that right side for the Warriors, which will also now be without Luke Metcalf. Defensively, maybe not the strongest part of their team. So you can see that left side of the Bulldogs still doing well. Then it's Roosters, Melbourne, Penrith and Sharks. But again, we're seeing Sharks not really being the toughest opposition. It's probably only really 25 and 26 that I'm really concerned about. Otherwise, I think the Bulldogs run home is very, very good. So Kikau, definitely firm on my radar. I still think I prefer him slightly over Preston. But, they're both, potentially good options. Kiraz, 56. So the reason that I think Kiraz might not be picked for, or not be available for us for round 18 is that there's rumours going around that he will be the New South Wales 18th man. And as we know, the 18th man for either of the State of Origin teams don't play for their club. So it looks potentially like we're not going to get Kiraz for round 18, which, is a little bit frustrating because there was a small part of me that thought maybe I would wait until round 18 for him just to make sure that he was there. But I was just like hell-bent on, want to get in Kiraz. He's my boy. 56 without any attacker stats is very, very good. I'm not concerned about him at all. We just went through that draw. I'm very happy to own Kiraz for the rest of the year. But as a number for round 18, I'm not sure if we're going to get him. Obviously, this is unverified. I'm just telling you what I think, what I've seen from online. I think Danny Widler reported it. And, I'd say he's generally pretty reliable for that kind of stuff. But yeah, it seems as though maybe Kiraz won't be available for us for round 18, which is a bit of a bummer, but I don't think you need to worry about it. I think you just hold on to him. What else do we want to talk about from this game? Not much more from the Bulldogs. I think the most relevant players there are Preston, Kiraz and Kickout, and I think they're all still very good options. Connor Tracy is a bit of a point of difference in centre wing with that really good run. A lot of people got burnt by him earlier in the season, but he will still be kind of mid-500s. So if you are looking for a real point of difference, Connor Tracy is still someone that you can consider. And the good thing with him is you don't have to play him every week. You can just kind of play him, on matchups. For Penrith, obviously, Dylan Noble we've spoken about. Cleary is obviously very good in this game. He got that charge down, so got the extra bump up in his score from the try. I would like to see him goal kicking, but if he's back in round 19, if he's not kicking, then maybe we can give it a week. But by round 20, Penrith also do have a good run home. So another thing we wanted to point out here, they've got Parramatta in 19, then it's the Rabbitohs, Tigers, Titans, Knights. So a very, very good stretch of games until round 23. 24, 25 is a little bit tougher, and 26 even with Bulldogs. But then you do have the Dragons in round 27. Again, someone like Cleary, we know the caliber of the player. Not necessarily worried about the draw, but if the draw is good, then he becomes a serious option. I think the general base stats for a lot of these players also probably is a bit inflated in this game, just given the nature of it. There wasn't a lot of there was a lot of fatigue, a lot of ball in play. So you can see like Isaiah Yeo, 65 points all in base. I'm pretty sure he made plenty of tackles, 42 points in tackles. Max King 71, even Kikau 66 is probably on the higher end of what I'd expect for output. Brian To'o 52. People will be looking at him as a bit of a point of difference as well at centre. 52 is generally his floor. He will get those off. He'll get those tackle busts. He'll get plenty of runs. We're looking at 33 points in runs. It will just be a question to have, I think, come round 19. I still don't think To'o's in my top 5 or 6 centres. I still think, we saw Val Holmes go really big this week. Mark Nwangani-Tuasi's gone big. I still think the Herbie, Carraz, Lomax, Garrick, Val, those 5 centres still for me take priority over Brian To'o, just because all of those guys I feel like, they're either goal kicking or Herbie's just, and the Dolphins are in unreal attacking form. And then Carraz, we know what a monster he is as well. So To'o is for me probably maybe a 6th centre wing that you can pick and play on matchups. But I'm not at the moment actively going out of my way to go get him in. But again, he falls into this mix of good point of difference centres. And they're not really much more, I think, to speak of out of Penrith, apart from maybe Tom Jenkins. So Jenkins had a -1 break-even coming into this week, only scored the 31 points. He's projected to have a pretty big break-even, I want to say. I think it's a break-even of, let's having a look at it here, 129. So he'll be facing a very high break-even. Look, he does have that really good run home, as we saw, but I do think it's a good time to pivot off of him. He's made plenty of money, and week to week, he's not going to be the most reliable of plays. He can go big, obviously. We saw in the last couple of rounds, we're looking at, 55, the big 151. So I think there'll be games where he goes big, but week to week, is he going to always be a player in your team? I'd say probably not. And he feels like he's at a good point to maybe pivot to another centre. And of course, he doesn't play next week, so you don't even need to make that sell next week if you don't need to. You can wait till round 19, and then you can take your pick of, Val, To'o, etc. So yeah, definitely keep an eye out for your Brian To'os, etc. And just let's see what happens with the New South Wales team list for Carraz. But otherwise, yeah, really, really high quality game, this one. On to the Sea Eagles and the Tigers. Bit of a poo slinger, if I'm being honest. The first half, or even the entirety of the game, wasn't anything special. Of course, the most relevant players in this were probably your Garricks, your Terrell Mays, your Tom Turbos, even your Cherry Evans. All of them scored pretty decently. Garrick scored 93, scored a try on the left wing. Terrell May just continuing to do what he does, which is a mid-70s. Cherry Evans was good for 76, people who owned him as a bit of a point of difference. And then you've got Turbo at 75. I think Turbo actually looked okay at right centre. There will be people, I think, looking at him next round. I can see potentially people going Pappenhausen to Turbo in round 18, because I know Pappenhausen has obviously been a season keeper since he's had the goal kicking. But just with a few poor scores, people might get tempted into getting the round 18 number of Turbo. You just need to be careful with Manly. They miss round 19. Me personally, I won't be doing Pappy to Turbo. I know he looked better at right centre, but I think you still want Turbo playing at fullback. And yeah, I think just based on what he's dished up so far this season, he's still not looking 100%. If you've held on to him, great, but I still don't know if I'd be saying Turbo is a buy, put it that way. Dewey's put in a couple of good scores, 76 and 60, I think, last week, but again, not overly relevant. Talon De Silva, not necessarily SuperCoach relevant, but going to the Parramatta Eels, I think, from next year for 4 years, so probably a good signing for the Eels there. And I'm a little bit, not concerned, I'm not a Tigers fan, but yeah, not sure what the Tigers are maybe having as a succession plan to copy Coruscant. to Api Coruscant because he's not the youngest, but keeping Talon De Silva would have made sense to me. But anyway, I'm not making the decisions for the West Tigers, put it that way. Lehigh Hopewadi, only the 59. I believe he got a try assist in this game. Let me have a quick check. You did get one try assist, but again, not... If you went and bought him in as a bit of a point of difference, you'd be a little bit disappointed with that. You would have hoped for more. But look, he still has next week against the Rabbitohs in round 18, so he'll be a useful number that week. Round 19, you can probably move on though. I think Garrick I'll just keep for the season. I think he's he's a gun. For other Manly players, they do come into a tough run of games post the bye. They'll have the bye in round 19, then they'll have Melbourne, Bulldogs, Roosters and Canberra. Melbourne is away, Roosters is at home, but Canberra is away. Bulldogs, I'm not sure what that stadium is. TBA, maybe it hasn't been decided yet, I don't know. But yeah, Bulldogs is a tough matchup. Round 24 to 27 could be a time that you reassess maybe and jump back in. So this is why keeping some trades up your sleeve might be useful, because you might, hypothetically, if Hopewhite is at fullback from that last month, he'll be a point of difference, really, really good games in that period of time, and he'd be someone that not many people own. And yeah, for the West Tigers, I guess Latu final was solid, was 43, but nothing spectacular. So not a whole heap of relevance there. The Tigers do play round 18, but again, apart from Toronto, I'm not sure who you're probably investing in. Jerome Luai was missing this game as well, but he's not going to be an option to pick because he'll play for New South Wales most likely. Just seeing if there's any questions in the chat. Keji is saying, can we just talk Dewey as 5'8" for the last 2 weeks? Playing well from an SC perspective. Dewey definitely has been better at 5'8" when it comes to Supercoach because he's got his hands on the ball a bit more often. He's just not stuck on the left-hand side. 68 last week, 76 this week. So look, there is maybe some value in him. He's kind of low 400s. I owned him for a period of time earlier this year when Jaden Campbell originally got injured. I found the best use of Dewey was having the dual. You could switch him between 5'8" and centre wing. And, if you traded in, let's say you're at 5'8" and you don't have any playing options this week because Jaden Campbell's on a bye, but maybe you want to sell your backup. Let's say let's hypothetically you want to sell your 5'8". Maybe if you're a Luke Metcalf owner, obviously he's down for the season with the suspected ACL. If you wanted to go Metcalf to Dewey, get in him for round 18 cover. And then what you can do is wait for Jaden Campbell to bottom out in price. And then you can sell one of your underperforming centers, or maybe like a Billy Smith, even if you hold on to a Jenkins through to round 19. Then you can sell Jenkins to your 5'8", and flip Dewey down to center wing. That's maybe where he's got the utility. As an outright purchase in center, I'm not sure. Again, I feel like there are so many other centers I'd prioritize. I just don't know if the consistency is going to be there. But look, he has performed much better in the halves. That has to be said. But just whether if that role is going to stay, I'm not 100% sure. And I doubt it. I feel like that was also a bit of Luai not being there. So it might happen again next week in round 18. But from round 19 onwards, I suspect that Dewey's just back to center. But yeah, he's definitely been better for Supercoach the last fortnight. 14:45, let's go from Scotty G. Thank you, Scott, if you're Scott Drinkwater. Clear his chin, surely making green arrows. Yeah, 14:45 is definitely, I think, a green arrows this week. That's a very, very good score this week. On to the Knights and Raiders. Again, both of these Knights don't play round 18. Biggest news out of this is probably the Kalen Ponga injury. Looks like he's out for multiple weeks. So he's not going to be there for Queensland. I'd suspect that Reece Walsh is most likely going to get the call up for Queensland at fullback. James Schiller, I think that's 2 big tons in about the last 3 or 4 weeks. Look, he's not an option I'd be recommending, that's for sure. The Knights still do have a pretty tough run of games on paper with Canberra, Melbourne, the Warriors, and then the Raiders again before a bye in round 22, then Penrith. So it's a pretty tough run home. You'd maybe look back to them again in, say, round 24. That being said, look, round 19, if that's a home game against Melbourne and Melbourne rest their origin players, that right side for Melbourne has been their weak side. You saw the Sharks today really peppering that edge. Warriors, we've just spoken about their right-hand side. So I think if you are investing in if you're holding any Knights players, I think the left-hand side ones are fine. So that makes me come to someone like a Bradman Best as a bit of a point of difference. He scored well the last few weeks. Again, he scored 81 this week. I'm pretty sure apart from the 1 try assist, all of his points was in base power. Yeah, we're looking at 38 points in runs. He did have a couple of line break assists. So he's not going to get very heavily traded in. His price is a little bit high. He'll be pushing into the 680, 700 Ks. But given those individual matchups he has, he might be a point of difference, but it's probably not one that I feel like I'll probably be taking. You know, I've got Dylan Lucas, and I don't think I need to really overly invest in the Knights when we know that their attack's obviously not the best. And without Kalen Ponga now, without Fletcher Sharp, who knows how good their attack's going to be. So, like Bradman Best, you could take a punt on. The matchups could work out for him, but I'm not particularly sure if I'll be looking at him myself. And Dylan Lucas, I think, is just to keep. 59 is probably his floor, but he's completely fine. I definitely would be holding him through, I think, the major buy round. And yeah, not really much else from the Knights. Gagai 58, Pierce Ball 55, but nothing of overly Supercoach relevant. For the Raiders, obviously some relevance there. They'll be playing round 18. KO Weeks 109. He does have these weeks where he, no pun intended, does put together, the very big scores. It's just the inconsistency that scares me with him. So even at 5'8", I don't think I'd be looking at. Like his last time came in round 11, and then up until this next one, it was 25, 45, 24, and 39. It's just not for me. He might have a hot stretch every now and then, but I just don't think I could, get comfortable with a KO Weeks. Zach Hosking, he's still very popular, and I didn't own him this week, and that's probably one of the reasons why maybe I'm slightly down on a couple of my leagues. People who've held on to Hosking, pulling out 106 points, he's finally delivered, I think, on what people wanted when they bought him in, many, many weeks ago. I think it was like round 12 when Matty Nicholson first went down. 41 points net in tackles, 12 points in offloads, 23 points in runs. Like very, very good base power in this game. And it probably helped as well because there was no Hudson Young. So that'll be the same in round 18. So I think if you've held on to Hosking this whole time, maybe round 18 again is fine to keep him. Round 19 though, you can probably look to move on. Ethan Strange was very good with 81. If people went on him as a bit of a point of difference. For me, 5'8" still feels like it's Campbell and Munster, especially with Metcalf now. I mean, with Metcalf now out of the picture, if you are looking for a 5'8" this week who covers 18, Ethan Strange might be your point of difference. I can't remember his price. I think he's getting up there in price. Yeah, he's 611k with an 81. He'll be getting to 650. It feels a bit gross, I think, to be paying for Ethan Strange. Corey Horsburgh was very good with 74 points. I'm just going to have a quick look at the minutes because I did miss this game actually, so I'm kind of just going off of minutes. So yeah, Horsburgh played 58 minutes, so scoring the 74 is big. I sold Horsburgh many weeks ago, but if you've held on to him, if he doesn't get picked for Queensland for game 3, then again, he's a good number for 18. Similar with Tarpany, 62 points in his 53 minutes, which is fine. Me personally, I'm probably looking at Tarpany, selling him in round 19. Now, Tarpany got this dislocated finger during that game as well. NRL Physio has said that if it's just a dislocation, he should be fine for next week. But if there's any kind of a fracture, then he will miss next week. So I'm kind of just waiting to see what the outcome of that is. Luckily, next week we have 3 trades, so you can probably manage these injuries a bit better next round. If Tarpany's fit next week, I'll obviously just keep him, but the plan is to sell him in 19. He's just been a little bit disappointing, I think, for what I paid for him. But if he's out next week, then I probably will sell him next week. Like I can go him to kick out via duels next week. And also just wanted to quickly know that with round 18, that's the last week that we're going to get dual updates coming in. So players like, say, Kolomatangi, I think he's going to get the front row. So he'll be second row forward, front row forward. So my plan in 18 or 19 is to sell Tarpany and flip Kolomatangi up to my front row, or maybe flip Patino, doesn't really matter who. But yeah, Kolomatangi will probably get the duel in round 18 and a few other players as well. Starling 54 was solid. In terms of his minutes, let me just have a quick look at it here. Played 68 minutes, so the minutes are still good for Starling. Again, for the Raiders players, it does feel like it's a bit of hold them through for 18, and then round 19, you can decide to sell them if you want. Like you could sell a Hosking, Tarpany, even a Horsburgh if you wanted. Hudson Young's probably the relevant one that people will be looking at as a point of difference. But again, he's not going to be coming back until round 20. So the Raiders are kind of whoever you have is cool. Not sure if I'd be overly investing in many of them because round 19 will be tricky to manage. First game of Saturday was the Broncos and the Warriors. This was a bit of a odd game in terms of I didn't really pick the Bulldogs, the Broncos winning so comfortably. 26 points to 12. I think them getting back to full strength obviously is helping things a lot. And obviously the Warriors copped some injuries in this game with Nico Klukstad and also Metcalf. It looks like he could be out for the season now with an ACL, which is not great for him. He was leading the Dally M's, I think, going in when behind until they closed the voting to the public. So yeah, that's a shame for him as well. He was having obviously a great season. Queenslander is saying, what do you think Karapani's break-even will be next week? So yeah, it's going to be good. So Karapani had a negative 85, scored 71 points. He's projected to have a negative 29 break-even coming next week and making about 120K. So he's going to be about 410,000 with a big negative break-even. So he should comfortably get into the early 500s. I think the jersey is his. We've seen everything that's happening with Selwyn Cobbo. Obviously, the Bulldogs is going to be tough, but that will be a Bulldogs team without Stephen Crichton. If they're also without Carraz, then they're obviously much weaker. Then you've got the Titans in round 19. So I think we're all probably going to be keeping and playing him for that week. That's obviously a tricky round to manage as well. Then it's round 20 is a bye. Then it's 21 is Parramatta. Then 22 is Rabbitohs. It's a pretty good run of games up until round 22. Then it gets a little bit tougher with Melbourne, Dolphins, Knights, Cowboys, Melbourne. You can easily just keep him as your 6th, 7th centre wing, play him on matchups. Or if you feel like you've identified a pod centre high upside, you can always just move on to Karapani. But I think he's been a good purchase this week. I brought him in this week for Nathan Lawson. Now, I had to make that trade before I realised that Lawson was playing. But look, Lawson scored a double and scored, I think, 55 points. Karapani scored 1 try and got 71. He's playing for the better team. I'm very happy to own Karapani, and I'm happy enough with that trade as well. I think I've created enough money with that set of moves. Game about Shibasaki. We have to speak about Shibasaki. Shout out to the SC Ballers, coining him the young GI, young Greg Inglis. He has been, honestly, a revelation this year for the Broncos and SuperCoach. I sold him ages ago. I can't even remember what week I sold him. He could have easily just have been held. I think there was this patch between rounds 5 to kind of round 10. That's probably when the majority of people sold him. He was kind of peaking at this 520K. He's gone on to make another $80,000, $90,000, 96, 61, 81, 74, and now 116 in the last 5 rounds. The man is on fire. Would I buy him again? Probably not, just knowing what we paid for him and what we sold him for. But if you've held on to Shibasaki, honestly, you've done very well. And look, I say I'm not going to buy him again, but that's because I have a bias of, purchasing players who I've previously sold. But he could easily be a, pod option for you, playing for a very good Broncos team. They do like that left-hand side attack. So yeah, let me know in the chat if anyone has held on to Shibasaki. And of course, shout out, I think, to the SC Ballers who, they obviously love the man and he's been killing it this year as well. 1503 Captain Drinky from Scott. That is a big, big score. Congrats, Scott. That's huge. You're probably going to get some very juicy green arrows. New South Wales names, and Aman, you're right. He is 18th man, so won't be available next week. Okay, I'm just going to have a quick look at the team, guys. So I'm just going to interrupt the flow of going through the games. Yeah, let's have a look at this New South Wales live team. Yeah, Jacob Kraz set for 18th man. Not great. This is the predicted team. Has it officially come out? Let me just quickly check on X. 1 second here. Here we go. 6 minutes ago. Yeah, okay. So pretty standard. No changes in the back line. Edwards, To'o, Crichton, Latrell, Lomax, Luai, Cleary, Max King, Robson, Payne Haas, Liam Martin, Angus, Isaiah Yeo, Connor Watson, Spencer Lenu, Hudson Young, Stefano's kept his place. So that is actually good because I was having a thought that Kolomatangi might be picked to New South Wales for Game 3, but they've stuck with Stefano. So we get Kolomatangi next week, which is good. But yeah, Jacob Kraz confirmed 18th man. So that means we won't get Kraz next week. Lindsay Smith is 19th man. Bradman Best is 20th man. Neither of those two guys are on the bye anyway. They're on the bye anyway, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, Jacob Kraz, 18th man. He won't be available for us for round 18. So it's a bit of a blow. But look, he's so heavily owned. I think anyone who's not purchasing this week, with him scoring 56 and not getting a run for round 18, you've definitely won out there. But look, is what it is. He's a season gun. I'm happy enough just to have bought him this week. But yep, confirmed Kraz, 18th man. So just going back quickly to the Broncos-Warriors game. Ezra Mann was good with 70 points. Again, we might have to talk about some point of difference 5/8 just because people might be selling, Luke Metcalf this week. I've never really been overly keen on Ezra Mann, in terms of SuperCoach. You can't really knock the scores though. 128, 41, 58, 64, and 70. Traditionally, he's always been someone who kind of averages around the 50 mark. And as we went through, the draw's not bad until round 22. So he could be maybe a bit of a placeholder who you just kind of keep there to tick over during these next few weeks, and then you maybe move on in round 22. I don't hate the play, especially next week if you are needing numbers at 5'8". You don't have Campbell and you don't have Munster. So Ezra Mam, maybe Adam Dewey, Ethan Strange. Like, I'd probably take Ezra Mam over Ethan Strange just down to price. He'll be about 100k cheaper. Dewey would be almost the one I pick though, just because of if he gets named at 5'8" or plays 5'8", he's got that dual, which is really, really handy. Reece Walsh, 62, could have been a consideration for round 18, but we don't have the Queensland team just yet. I think they may not release their team until Monday. Actually, just one second, I'm just going to quickly I'm just going to tweet. I'm just saying, Karaz 18 man won't be available in round 18. All right, just tweeting that out. So I think Reece Walsh probably not a factor for round 18. I suspect he'll get the call up for Queensland, although they could easily put Hamiso at fullback. And no one else scored over 60 for the Broncos. Payne Haas obviously a bit of a down game with only the 45 points. I'm not sure what minutes he played. Just going to quickly check that out. But it's probably just only a benefit for those who've already sold him. But, Payne Haas killed it last week with 108. So it's kind of evened out anyway to his, what is that? Maybe an 80 average. Played 55 minutes, but I think, Broncos are pretty comfortable in this game overall. For the Warriors, Harris Tavita was good with a couple of try assists for his 67. He's been pretty much solid all season long. Aaron Clark, 62 points. I'm just going to have a quick look at his minutes. Aaron Clark played 66 minutes. So the minutes have been up the last couple of rounds. He has been in the 60s. So that's good to see. And 62 in a game where, generally pretty well beaten, I think. If that's kind of his floor, I think you'd be happy enough with him. He definitely could still be someone who we look at in round 19 as just a run home second rower, or even in your front row. But 62 points being his floor, you'd absolutely take that. Tuvas Asheka's got some big down dates. He was on 70 before updates, and he's gone down to 57. So I'm not sure what they've taken off him. They may have taken off him a line break potentially, or some tackle busts. I'm not sure what's happened there. But yeah, that's a bit disappointing for anyone who did take a flyer on RTS, because 70 down to 57 is not great. And then, no one else scoring over 50. Jacob Laban scored 50 points, and he played the 58 minutes. So decent output in his short time, because some people were looking at him as maybe a bit of a downgrade. But the Warriors don't play round 18 anyways. And of course, the biggest talking point out of this whole thing was Luke Metcalf. Unfortunately, it looks like he'll be out for the season with a suspected ACL. He'll lose a bit of money because he was having a break even of 98. He'll go down 52k though. So he's going to be, 620k. You can go him to Dewey and free up 200k. Him to Ezra Mam frees up 100k. Or you can just keep him until round 19. And if you've got the duels to go him to back to Cleary in round 19, that might be the play that you do in the end. But we can talk about that on Tuesday, what you do with Luke Metcalf. But yeah, probably going to be a sell. Next game, Dragons and the Eels. Okay, before I move on that game, I'm just going to quickly say shout out to Aaron, who says, can confirm I did not keep Shibasaki, but bigger shout out has to go to Nick Berg, 1446, ... proud Shibasaki owner. Good on you, Nick, for, firstly the good score, but for still owning Shibasaki. You're a better man than the rest of us, put it that way. Is there any chance, so Lachlan's are saying, is there any chance that Karaz is actually available for the Friday game, given Origin is in Sydney anyway? I don't think so, Lachlan. I just think that for the Origin squads, any 18th man is not released back to their club to play. Even if the game's in Sydney, I just don't think, because they need that player to be available in case of HIAs and whatnot. So unfortunately, you sound like a desperate Karaz owner, but unfortunately, I don't think that they release the 18th man, even if they're playing in the same city. So I'm just resigned to the fact that we're not going to get Jacob Karaz for round 18. For the Dragons and the Eels, so Eels don't play round 18, but good to see Zach Lomax scored very well with 88. I'm a happy owner of Lomax. Scored one try for 88 points and wasn't the best with his goal kicking. Missed a couple of goals in this one. So if he scores one try for 88, pretty much shows his floor is about 55 to 60. For me, Lomax is an absolute run-home season keeper. I know Parramatta don't have a great run-home in terms of draw. Like, they've got Penrith, Raiders, Broncos, Melbourne. That's a pretty tough stretch from 19 to 22. Opens up a little bit then with Cowboys, Rabbitohs, Roosters, Warriors, the Knights. So It's a mixed draw for the next few, and then it kind of gets a little bit better. I just think he's so good though. And I think the Eels are generally just on the improve. Moses will be back probably around 21, 22, 23, I think. So that means that Moses will be back for the good stretch of games. So Lomax could be someone that you maybe don't need to get immediately, but I think he's that good. You can easily just trade him in round 19. And shout out as well to Isaiah Iongi. He's put together a couple of really, really good back-to-back scores. So not sure if anyone's looking to buy him back again, similar to Shibasaki, but just wanted to call him out for his scores. Katonga was also very good with his 85, and Kelma Tuolangi not going anywhere near that, unfortunately. But also shout out to Jack Williams. We've kind of spoken to him a little bit on the Tuesday pods. 74 points, all in base as well, all base power, I should say. So he's definitely been on the uptick. I think what he lacks for maybe in a ceiling, he's kind of just pushing out 65 to 70 every week now base power in this kind of slightly new role that he's got at the Eels. So he's someone that you can maybe look again for as a bit of a point of difference for the run home. I just think it will be tough to say pick a Jack Williams when you've got maybe someone like an Angus Crichton at the same price if he plays in round 19. That's just the only thing. I think Jack Williams is solid, but is he going to be someone that you're going to prioritize over an Angus or Kikau? I think I'd still take those other guys, but Williams has been very, very good. And not much more from the Eels. I guess Dylan Brown with 63, but he doesn't play around 18. He's been pretty underwhelming overall this season, so I don't think I'd be looking at him as your 5'8". For the Dragons, so Val Holmes obviously scored a very big here with 117. Now, Val's always kind of been in my thoughts, maybe as a 5th, 6th, or like in your top 5 or 6 centres. I think this game has kind of reaffirmed it. Scoring a double obviously helps. He had a couple of line break assists as well, goal kicking. He's got a big ceiling on him. This is his high score of the season, and he's kind of more or less holding value now with that break even of 118. So let me just have a quick look at this here. Someone on my Twitter just said, surely Laurie Daly plays Supercoach because he knew how much of an impact that was going to be. Absolutely. He knew what he was doing, picking him 18th man. So just going to have a quick look. What was I looking at here? Val Holmes is projected break even. So obviously Val, you suspect, will get picked for Queensland and won't be available around 18. But he'll be coming back in round 19 with a 73 break even, losing about 10k. So, well, not even losing 10k. He shouldn't lose any money. So he'll be 691k. Coming back in round 19 will be the Roosters, Doggies, Cowboys, Raiders again, Sharks, Warriors, Rabbitohs, Manly, Penrith. I think that's a fairly decent run home for someone like a Val Holmes. I'm kind of kicking myself a bit as well because I spoke about this weeks ago. I said if you wanted to buy Val, round 17 is the week to do it. If you wanted to get ahead of the pack, that actually would have been nice because he's gone and scored 117. He'll be very popular, I think, come round 19. Definitely keep him in your thoughts because, we know that Val is a Supercoach gun in seasons gone past. Even in the Dragons, I'll quickly pull up his scores again. His lowest score all season long has been 40 in round 2. After that was a 58. After that was a 62. He's got a good floor on him and he's generally going to punch out high 60s to low 70s. But he can have these occasional games where he goes big as well. So I'm very keen on Val, I think, for the run home for sure. Not really that keen on anyone else. I guess for the Dragons, I've owned King Tonga for a while. He's actually been pretty solid. Didn't play him this week, but I'll play him next week in replacement of Munster, which is cool. Gutho, only the 54 points. Damien Cook was okay with 68 with the try assist, but ideally you don't make too many trades at hooker. And then, obviously, HRA for Hamish Stewart, so he only scored 38, and Toby Couchman, 28. Looks like he's re-injured that same shoulder, so he's going to be out for a fair few number of weeks as well, I think. So that's a big blow for anyone who jumped on Couchman for their round 18 cover. I think if he's out for multiple weeks, you can definitely sell Couchman. He's 541k. He'll go down to about 520k, but still, $100-something thousand will get you up to a Kikau. Or you can go to like a Jack Williams if you don't have as much money as well. Not really much more I wanted to speak about from that game. Let's get on to the next one, Dolphins and Rabbitohs. I'm just going to quickly see what else is happening in the chat. Benny G, good to see you, 1409, and I miss your beautiful face daily. Yeah, mate, I hope you're doing well out there. I know you're really going through a lot, so I'm hoping all the best for you. You're a tremendous bloke and tremendous score as well, 1409 this week. Yeah, very, very good to see you here in the chat. Lachlan saying Lomax VCN didn't take it because of those snail-paced updates. Yeah, it was very, if you notice when the updates happened, pretty much as soon as the Titans-Cowboys game kicked off, that's when all the updates came in. So I do think there is an element of the scores get updated, but they don't let it go through on Supercoach until maybe certain periods of time, because they don't want people to take, because what would have probably happened is if they had released the updates earlier, assuming this is a bit of conspiracy theory, but if the updates were ready and they put them out earlier, many, many more people would have taken a VC loop on Garrick, who updated up to 93. People would have taken it maybe on Lomax like yourself, 88. Look, in the end, you've probably been benefited because if you just defaulted to Drinkwater, he scored 130. So you've done better out of captaining Drinkwater than taking the loop. But there is an element, I do think, of the timing of when these updates come in. And yes, snail paste is correct. But yeah, 88 points from Lomax. I think, look, obviously, Lachlan, let me know who you captained. If you captained Drinkwater, then I think you got nothing to worry about. But if you captained like Pappenhausen, then yes, I feel for you, because then you've been stuffed around, I guess, with the slow updates. Scotty G says, May 68 minutes, 129 meters or 15 runs, 50 tackles and no misses. Lol, nice one daily. Yeah, that's the thing. Look, Terrell May is just not really in consideration for this year. Oh, there you go, Lachlan. You said you did not benefit because you were Pappy captain. Yeah, unfortunately, that sucks for you, Lockton. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, I mean, obviously nothing I can do, but I feel for you for that one, because yeah, a Lomax 88 would have felt much nicer than Pappy's 42. Dolphins 50 to 28 over the Rabbitohs. Just putting up 50 points seems to be the regular now for the Dolphins. Hamiso 4 tries, 129. Isaiah Katoa is just ridiculous. Like, he's so good. He's so good. What can I say? I mean, if you jumped on him as a point of difference, I think it was round 15, I might have said it, round 14, round 15, something like that. It was the same week that people were picking up Cherry Evans. I think by Thursday, I changed my stance to buy Cherry Evans over Isaiah Katoa. But I think my initial stance was pick Katoa over Cherry Evans. I think it was probably better off that you picked Katoa because he's gone huge this week. And I think he's been called into the New South Wales camp. They don't play round 18 anyway, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, he's already a star, but he's going to be amazing. Hopefully he doesn't. I just hope that he, touch wood, doesn't pick up any injuries, and we can just watch him for the next 12, 14 years. He's so good. He just, I love like that try he set up for Hamiso when he kind of feigned left, pass to the right. I was just like, oh, give me that every day of the week. Love to see that. So yeah, very, very good scores from them. Obviously not relevant for next week, but maybe someone to consider for your point of difference at halfback. Joe Marshall-King was big with 88 points. Scored a try, obviously, in this one to bump up his score, but not sure how many people are going to be looking there. I think people will be just eyeing up Connor Watson, Harry Grant on the run home. Herbie Farm was solid, 86 points, got that line break early in the game, and I think that led to just a try contribution, actually. So, but aside from those two try contributions, 78 points from Herbie. He's elite. I think there will be people who still don't own him, and he's getting up to like 900k. Look, the fact that he doesn't play 18 is fine. I think you can just reassess in round 19, but I'm going to assume that the majority of people already own Herbie, so you should all be fine, hopefully. Kurt Donahue, again, very good score, 77, scored a try in this one, so he's been a nice little pickup for people who maybe went on him as a downgrade at hooker. Jermaine Sarko, 65. No attacking stats, just goal kicks really in this one. 36 points in goal kicks, didn't miss a single goal. Speaking of things I want to see every day, Jermaine Sarko's goal kicking is beauty. But I am looking at selling Asako next week. He was always a kind of 3-week play for me when the Dolphins had a good run of games. He did have 101 break even, so he's going to be going down in price just a touch. He'll be going down in price to about 22k, so he'll be getting to about $700,000, and then he'll have 106 break even. After the round 18 bye, the Dolphins have got the Sharks, which doesn't look as bad anymore, and then the Cowboys, which looks very, very good, and then the bye again in round 21. So there is honestly an argument to keep him in round 19, round 20. I will probably look to sell him just to bump up my round 18 numbers though. I can go him to like a Nwangani Tawasi, or I can go him to like a Kikau next week via duels. That's currently where I'm leaning, is getting Kikau, just to get that round 18 number, and not that I don't have to sell Osako, but Kikau's got no more buys for the rest of the year, and I think they both have a similar floor. Isako's probably got the upside, but yeah, I just really like Kikau, and I think I want to get him in next week for round 18 cover. So I'll probably be selling Isako, but it's not necessarily an urgent sell. You can definitely keep him from round 19 and round 20. Unfortunately, Nikorima had a big hamstring injury, so that could also hurt the Dolphins attack because he's been a big part of them scoring so many points in the last kind of month and a half. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with their attack now that Nikorima is going to be out. But I guess as long as they have Isaiah Katoa, they're probably going to be fine. For the Rabbitohs, Talis Duncan, another big game, scored a double not that long ago. So he's gotten 2 big tons in a row. He'll be going close to 600k, so I'm not sure if he's an option I'd be looking to purchase. The minutes have been good, 80 minutes pretty much for a while, but again, still, I don't know if I'd be looking at him as my run home kind of second rower. Jack Whiten was good for 96. Cody Walker, 89, looked good, but again, he's picked up a hamstring. Latrell, 81. I'm very, very keen on Latrell, I think, for the run home, because that game, he really didn't look like he did much. 1 try assist, a couple of goal kicks, some line break assists, but that feels like Latrell can do that any week. And so he had a very cruisy 81 is how I look at it. And in terms of his matchups with the run home, he obviously misses 18 and 19, so he will be someone we look at in round 20. But I think it's a good run home. Penrith is going to be tough. Then it's the Sharks, which I'm not so worried about. Broncos, Titans, Parramatta, Dragons, Roosters. That's a very, very good run home. So I think if Drinkwater or Pappy continue to, obviously Drinkwater didn't underperform, but if Drinkwater slips up in the future, if Pappy continues to maybe not put out as many big scores, I can definitely see myself, picking up Latrell. I think he'll be a very, very popular purchase in that run home, and I can see maybe round 21, he'll be very popular. So yeah, keep an eye out for Latrell. Not something you need to worry about for the next couple of rounds, but yeah, it looks very, very good. Kolomatangi, a bit of a down game, only with the 45 points, but I'm not really overly worried about him. Probably just put it down to, so many tries scored against his team. He's just not going to be able to rack up as many base stats as well. I'm just going to quickly check his minutes just to make sure I didn't miss anything there. He played 60 minutes, so the minutes were a little bit less in this game. Generally, he's been playing above 70 in the middle. But again, if we see more consistently 60-something minutes, maybe we'll be worried. But for now, I'm not really stressing about it. He'll be a number for us in round 18 and probably a solid captain, vice-captain option. Nothing really I wanted to speak more about from the Rabbitohs. So let's just get to the Sunday games here. So first off was the Storm versus the Sharks. Competitive first half, but in the end, I think the Storm just kind of ran away with it in the second half. They were very, very good. Very happy Jerome Hughes and Eli Katoa owner. I spoke about it a bit at the beginning of the pod. But very happy with Eli Katoa. He was a man of the match basically today. He was also very, very close to more points because he had a cutout ball to Suafa'alongo on the right wing. Fa'alongo just went into touch. If Fa'alongo scored that, Eli Katoa would have been looking at another 20 points. We spoke about it a couple of weeks ago when people were selling Olukuatu. Eli Katoa for me is a top 2 second rower for the run home. So I think he's very, very highly owned. So I'm assuming most of you watching have probably benefited from his points today. Less so Jerome Hughes. So I checked. Jerome Hughes is about 53% owned in the top 10%. So his points actually made a difference to me this week, which was good. He seems to just be kind of having these very low games of the 30s, 40s, and then he has these big tons. Because last week he scored 45 points, but then he had 136 before that. 2 weeks before that, 32, 41, and then another big 105. So he is kind of being a little bit volatile. But playing for a gun Melbourne Storm team, I think we'll just need to decide come round 19, round 20, if we had to sell one for Cleary, who would it be? I still don't really know what the answer is just because I'm seeing way more from the Storm than I am from Nicho Hynes and the Sharks. But I think as a Supercoach player, Nicho Hynes probably has a more friendly game. Like you saw this week, he only had 1 try assist and scored 62. Last week, Hughes scored a try and had 45 points. Hynes has got a much better floor. He's got the goal kicking as well. But if Melbourne are going to keep performing well, then it's very hard to say sell Jerome Hughes. Even Hynes, 62 points, he will go down. He won't go down in price, actually. He will stay at the same price, which is good to see. But not a decision we need to make, ASAP. I think for Melbourne, not because of the second half where most of the tries went to the kind of less owned players your Trent Lieros or Suafa'alongos and whatnot. None of your big guns like Munster, Grant, Pappy really fired in this one. it was really dominated by Hughes and Eli Katoa on the right-hand side. The left-hand side, which last week the Sharks was their weak side, wasn't really getting peppered as much or wasn't really as leaky. I think they must have worked in it during the week. But then the Sharks' left-hand side with Braden Trindle was really getting peppered this week. So I think it was just a case of that was what the game needed. Therefore, Munster and Pappy didn't really go that big. So I'm not really worried about them at this moment in time. Pappy is going down quite a bit in price though. So he'll be going down to, he'll be losing about 50k with 125 break even. So he'll be getting down to 660k, another big break even. Look, he plays around 18 against the Cowboys, so you're not selling next week. He could be a captain option. I think you're going to find next week is probably, I can't remember who plays first, but it'll be VC Pappy, Captain Tedesco most likely. So you're not selling in 18. You're probably not selling in 19. The draw is still very good as well. Manly, Roosters, Parramatta, Broncos. It's only really maybe 24, 25. It gets a bit tougher. So yes, I can see people maybe moving off of Pappy, but the draw still looks very, very good. So by no means is he going to be an urgent sell. And I think for the next 2 weeks, you're not going to be, I think, selling him in my opinion. Harry Grant, no attacking stats, so only the 48. Still an option you can look to pick up in round 19 if he backs up, otherwise round 20. For the Sharks, nothing majorly doing here, only scoring the 6 points. So at least Nico Hines got over 60. Blake Brayley with 54, McInnes 53, just kind of doing their general thing. Bryn Nicola only the 49, and yeah, Fanul Blake only 49 as well. Yeah, very underwhelming for the Sharkies. They don't play around 18, so I can see maybe people starting to sell a few of their options. You know, maybe if you're a Fanul Blake owner and you want to sell via duels to say like a Kickout or a Preston, I don't hate that. Just the way that he's performing at the moment. He's had a couple of good rounds, but he's not the same as what he was last year. So I can see people maybe looking at selling someone like a Fanul Blake. Britton Nicola, you don't need to, but he's not someone I'm urgently also looking at as well. Just seeing if there's anything from the chat. The recycled rack says, I'll antipod Herbie to the end. Yeah, I don't know if I could. I mean, thank God I bought Herbie a couple of weeks ago, because I don't know if I'd be happy to antipod Herbie. Just the way that him and the Dolphins are just looking amazing. Final game of the round was the Titans versus the Cowboys. So I'd say this was an unconvincing win from the Cowboys. Like, they did what they needed to do, but you know, they let the Titans kind of get back into this one. So again, not the highest quality of games, but obviously Scott Drinkwater with 131 scored a double, 2 try assists, everything you need to see as a captain now. So very, very happy with that big score from Drinkwater. As we said, it's kind of stopped the hemorrhaging of cash. Next 2 weeks are going to be tough against Melbourne and the Dogs, but just given that those are the 2 tricky weeks in terms of buys, we'll probably just keep it for the next 2 rounds and then reassess. Cowboys have got a mixed run home. So the next 2 weeks are tough. Then they've got Dolphins, Dragons, Sharks, Parramatta, Knights, Tigers, Broncos. So it's actually a good run home, I'd say, from round 20, 21 onwards. But you can just kind of reassess his form. And at that point in time, you can probably make a decision if you want to go to like a Latrell. If Dylan Edwards isn't kicking goals, he becomes less of an appealing option to me. But he's got a very good run home draw. I'm just going to assume that Teddy is in your top 3. I think Teddy's going to be there. And then I think it'll be picking 2 out of Pappy, Drinkwater, Latrell, and Dylan Edwards for me. Those are kind of the 4 that I'm really looking at, I think, is my run home fullbacks. And you just need to pick 2 out of them. So yeah, let's see how that all plays out in the next kind of 2 to 3 weeks. Nothing really much more to speak about from the Cowboys. I guess Jackson Purdue, very underwhelming with only the 21 points. Nanai with 49. I believe Nanai scored a try as well in this one. So yeah, not really much in terms of work rate. For the Titans, Bo Fermor scored a try with a line break, so did well in this one with 88. Brimson did well also. I actually lost one of my leagues because the other opponent I was facing had Brimson. So he did well with 87. Tom Weaver can kick a goal, but he'll be out of the team once Jaden Campbell is back. And also the Titans will get Keanu Kinney, so it'll be interesting to see what happens with Brimson and the like once Keanu Kinney's back in about round 21. And yeah, Tino, let me just have a quick look at his minutes. So he scored 52 in this one. I think he played the first entire half. So I think his minutes would probably be in the high 50s, if not in the 60s. Yeah, Tino played 69 minutes. So this is probably the evidence that, yes, he is battling the sternum issue, because if he beginning of the season, injury-free, played the 69 minutes, he'd probably score 65 to 70 points. The fact that he's only scoring the 52, now granted it was wet conditions, the Cowboys did put some points on. So, yeah, the output's down, which isn't great to see. But, look, I held him this week because I thought I might have other trades I wanted to do. And because I missed out, because I already had his cash drop last week, I just thought, look, I've already lost that money. I'll just keep it. I'll keep him. He will continue leaking cash. So he's going to go down about, let me have a look at it here. He was going to go down about 57K and have another 100 plus break even. So he's pretty much just going to be reverting back to his original starting price. But if he's able to get over the sternum issue, he's not the worst hold in the world. If people wanted to move him on in round 18, I also don't hate it, just because I think what you're seeing here, 52s, I think you're more likely going to get Tino averaging 60 to 65 for the run home rather than a 70-75. So I still don't hate the sell next week if you wanted to make moves and get numbers up in round 18. Max is saying here, Tino is washed Supercoach wise. Yeah, it's just with the sternum issue. That's what's hurting him a lot in terms of his output. Again, not really much I'm going to speak about from the Titans. They don't play round 18. So I'll take a couple of questions and then we'll probably just wrap up the video and I will go then have my dinner and watch some MasterChef. So yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in. And yeah, if you enjoyed it, please do give the stream a like. Max is saying, I've been a non-Drinky owner this whole year. I think I now have to jump on board. If you didn't own Drinky, would I buy him though? I'm not sure if I would, just because the next 2 weeks are difficult with Melbourne and then the Bulldogs. I get it for a round 18 number though. And yes, he will be a roller coaster, but I think there'd be a temptation where if you already own Teddy and Pappy, you don't have to get another fullback. You could get a centre wing or a second rower in your flex, and then down the line, you can eventually get a different fullback who's not Drinkwater, but maybe like a Latrell or a Dylan Edwards. So yeah, I don't think you have to jump on Drinkwater. Just look, this was the week because of the Titans matchup. The next 2 weeks are not going to be that easy. So I'm not sure if I'd be rushing back to buy Drinkwater if you didn't own. With Drinkwater not losing 2 points every time he goal kicks from the left, he's a must-have. Yeah, it is hilarious how any difficult kick, he doesn't take it anymore. Like that left sideline, I don't think I've seen him kick a single goal from that side this entire year. So it's funny when Clifford took it, I was like, you know what, I don't mind it because it just means that he's not going to get -2 points. So if he takes all the easy kicks and gives Clifford the difficult ones, I'm fine with that. Katoa and Cleary run home halfbacks. I honestly don't hate it. Katoa has been amazing. Part of me still thinks that Hughes and Hines might edge him, but the way he's going, I can't knock it, to be honest. J8M says, fade Lucas. He still has 2 buys to come. Yeah, look, if by now you didn't own Lucas, you don't need to rush to get him because he's going to miss round 18 and he will miss round 22. So he's going to miss a couple more weeks, and there are some tougher matchups in between. So yeah, you don't have to buy Lucas, especially now that we're getting very, very close to that full run home from round 19 onwards or round 20 onwards. Any players who have buys, you can really just kind of go against them with very, very good other options. Like if you didn't own Lucas, but then you got say Val Holmes in round 19, Val will play an extra game, and I'd wager that he's probably at least going to match his average, if not maybe beat it. Would you nuff Adam Fanua-Blake to Simpkins to upgrade Lawson to Marky Mark? Lets me keep Brimson as my 7th centre wing. Nothing Fanua-Blake. To be fair, oh no, never mind. The Titans don't play around 18. I was just going to say Simpkins might actually be a number for you, but that's not going to happen. To upgrade Lawson to Marky Mark. So effectively what you're doing is 2 trades to go Fanua-Blake to Marky Mark. I don't know if I love it, but getting rid of Lawson is fine. And yeah, Nwangani to Wasi could be a nice little point of difference. Yeah, like Fanua-Blake this year, I just don't feel scared of him. So I think if you're converting him into a higher upside guy, then yeah, I don't really mind that. Would you sell Purdue now, even though he's got the dual? Yeah, that's another player I should have mentioned. He's now going to get the center wing 5'8", is Jackson Purdue. Would I sell him? I think this wasn't the week to sell him because of the Titans matchup, but he's going to go down massively in price. So he's going to go down 70k, 116 break even. To be honest, even if he's got the dual, if you feel like you're not going to pick him as your number 1 5'8". Like if you're going to have a Munster or a Campbell or a, Ezra Mam or whatever as a 5'8" over Jackson Purdue, then the deal doesn't really matter. If you're not going to make use of it, then what's the point of holding on to him if he's going to delete cash? We just went through the next kind of 4 or 5 rounds that are pretty difficult. It was a bit of a down game for him, so he could definitely bounce back, but I don't hate selling Purdue, even if he's got in the duel. What about Carraz? Is he a must with that run home? I think Carraz from round 19. Look, I'm never really worried about draw with Carraz, so I think he is a must for the run home. If you ask me my top 6 centers for the run home, Herbie, Carraz, in no particular order, Herbie, Carraz, Lomax, Garrick, Holmes, Lucas. That's probably my 6. So yeah, Carraz is in there. Let's take a couple more questions and then I think we'll end it here. RTS as the 6th center wing to maybe play on matchups. Was looking at Nwangani Tawasi, but maybe gives sit-start headaches, which I'm clearly bad at. Look, honestly, I completely get where you're coming from, Lachlan. It's sometimes nice to pick a player who you just don't mind benching, because then you just don't feel so annoyed when they score big points on your bench. Whereas a Nwangani Tawasi is going to be harder to pick. At least Tuivasa-Sheck, they do have a good run home. You can play him against the Tigers in 19, sit him for the Knights, play him against Titans, sit for 22, 23, play him for 24 to 25, 26. So I don't hate it. I still think there are better centers I'd have. I think I'd pick Nwangani Tawasi, and because I just think, again, ceiling is with Nwangani Tawasi, and I think it's just a thing of you just need to be emotionally okay with having points on your bench. If it means that you're picking the better player and your chances of picking that big ceiling game are higher. So yeah, I know it sucks leaving points on the bench, so I get where you're coming from. Should Aaron Clark owners be concerned over the drop in minutes? Thought he was in the run home side. Max, the last 2 weeks, Aaron Clark's minutes have actually been up. He's actually been in the 60s, so I think he'll be fine. You don't have to worry about him. All right, guys, probably going to wrap up there. But thank you everyone for tuning in. Please do give the stream a like if you did enjoy it. We'll be back on Tuesday for the normal round 18 trade targets and preview stream. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Hopefully you enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening,